The emerald tablet, on which will cast a light as green and elusive as the mythological engraved gem has cast in our minds, seems to defy proper qualitative analysis from scholars who often linger on its material history. Was it Greek? Was it Arabic? We simply can't know with the evidence we have. Yet, despite this obscurity, many thinkers have retranslated and reinterpreted it throughout its known existence, among whom we find a famous mystic like Newton alongside an infamous trickster like Blavatsky. Its lure is undeniable when you look through its few grammatically simple but nigh impenetrable sentences. This is not a poem that reminisces childhood or ponders the phenomenology of a summer breeze, but something entirely different. It is a recipe, a map to a country long forgotten whose cross at the end of the dotted line dances in a blur in our peripheral vision like an afterimage. Perhaps that's why its siren draws in academia and mystics alike, because it was invented in a cross-disciplinary soup from a forgotten past where academics were mystics, an either blasphemous or unthinkable situation for anyone familiar with modern-day universities. And here we stand, with our Frankenstein's monster of a quadruple reinterpretation, balancing over the intellectual abyss that forms between academic indoctrination and the implausibility of modern occultism, ready at any moment to lose our footing and plunge into the infinite regress of our imagination. When we mix occult practice and intellectual restlessness, it should start to smell funny. So listen carefully as we start what is more true than certain. Please enjoy.
This is the truth, as certain as prophecy, unmistakably true.
Is it at all possible to mistake the truth as being untrue?
The truth is as elusive as the ever-fleeting now. Fate rules all men, and gods too, but not interpretation. Truth will not make the hill less steep, only more beautiful. God is always personal. Call it Shaddai, Daimon, Genius, Fylgja. Their friendship stops your rebellion against your nature, aligning you with your fate.
Prophecy is merely an epitome of destiny, a piece of a puzzle. Where does this destiny start? Is prophecy substituting prophecy in promising cascades?
Prophecy is epiphany. Truth is revealed from the acausal ground of reality. It begins with life.
It must be known that this is just one spectre among many.
The truth that transcends our fleeting lifespan perhaps seems ghostly to modern man, for it gives rise to every haunting experience of meaning.
It is looking beyond the flesh of an original lost text, knowing that the horrors we find is a mental manifestation or representation of a consensus reality, which is why the truth should be feared.
Truth cannot be pluralist. Truth might just be the essential ground of reality, verily experience. Seeking truth about the world out there is metaphysics, not science. Thus, in there is no different.
Maybe to reach some truth, we must describe it as everything it's not, in order to make it what it is. We must follow the spectres into the shadows and find the carcasses of rejected truths. Only then we can try to revive them.
Perhaps we must follow Fylgja, Nissa, trolls, ghosts, demons and angels, not to a carcass, but the tohu vavohu at the beginning of creation, pregnant with a new reality that will do away with the cosmic carcass in which we now dwell.
It is a shame for the truth searcher to recoil in apophaticism. It only is in our present carcass of the Enlightenment we find this reluctance to attest anything to truth or even to beauty. Behold the unspoiled truth, the harmony of every dissonance.
Harmony here is an expression of the kairos position, where dissonance is overwhelmed, full focalization of high tragedy.
When chaos, wearied of its boundless potential, at last succumbs to reality, a harmony of dissonances is born anew.
Harmony is chaos overwhelming itself to a completely natural climax.
Thus it conforms to reality. This is more true than the certain as dwellers of an abject realm.
The realm is abject because the unspoiled truth evades manipulation. It will not serve other means than itself.
And we rise above certainty to become ambassadors of rejected truth. It seems nothing is more exotic than darkness.
As above, so below. The slaying of subject and object for the miracle of unified experience.
Could this unification rely on the extinction of man? Is being without thinking what we should strive for?
The extinction of man in a discursive sense, a pathetic organism.
The insisting power of subject-object relation is soul, and soul is in the way of spirit. Is spirit hereby a unified experience, consumption of soul, and are claimed twins of Logos, the Holy Ghost and the Antichrist tied up in this cellar?
The Holy Spirit and the Antichrist swirl in a dance to the primordial symphony behind the sanguine curtains of the ego. The apparent dual consciousness after a corpus callosotomy shows us the shadows of a myriad of personalities that the ego holds back.
If above is as below, it's only by way of violence. To keep its eternal shape, a circle must violently exhaust an eternity of numbers to become a miracle of one.
And why is violence necessary? Has it always been necessary? The religious and sexual, and therefore violent, seem intertwined. The violence of man as he seizes the female and unites them. The social violence of the hermit. The bodily violence of the ascetic monk and the flatulence. Odin's hanging of himself as an offering to himself. The cave painter's taming of the world, striving to command the chaos surrounding him. Now we have reached a level of order which suffocates. Is a violation of the non-perfect bad?
Our current level of order necessitates the violent negation of the non-perfect bad. We allow for the perfect bad in the sense that it functions as a prism through which harmony and the perfect good is brought forth. But only when we violently force the non-perfect good and bad back into perceived reality, we might find the harmony that lies beyond order.
We violate the chaos to create, yet a full submission of the life-giving chaos will asphyxiate us. Thus, as you say, the perfect bad is the Gleipnir that hogties any possibilities of change, while the non-perfect bad is the blowtorch that would unleash Fenrir free to devour the son of our puce-red world.
Violence by way of the warrior god, a displacer of limbs and empires in apotheosis. The soldier was practically a priest before war became politicized and sterile, foraging reality in the outskirts of experience. Thus, it is a staple tactic of colonialists to deem true predatory combat as savage, along with the gods it spurred.
Vertical worm, foci mundi, a miracle serpentine in the name of the infinitesimal.
Can we speak of two worms, the circumference of the axis mundi as Jormungandr, divider of the horizon, the wisdom to be had at the edges of our knowledge, where, as they say, there be monsters?
Is this miracle being a celestial coprophage or a cosmovore?
Parasitic being, the rat roams these secrets, worm and worm sustained by foci.
The pact of the highest and lowest awaiting an ultimate utterance.
What is the facilitator of this pact? Is it the middle ground? Is the middle ground the abyss which will bellow this ultimate utterance?
The utterance is experience, livsytring. It should sound in a middle ground that is neither abyss nor compromise.
And as everything persists through the unity of chaos, so too everything is born from the single harmonious act of separation.
So catastrophe is life and unity is death.
Creation is violence, yet creation is life, and yes, death is unity.
Thus, as with all things, this harmony is born through the mastery of one thought, but haunted by the infinitesimal and the infinite.
For every one thing is born of one word, and one word alone, the one particular being pierced from all sides by murderous eyes.
Murderous eyes that collapse the superposition, the black holes that turn multiplicity into matter, staring with one thought, becoming blind to possibility.
As a long being of one, skulls are easiest among minerals to dissolve.
Will this cosmic lobotomy dull or enlighten? Both lead to dementia.
To know lost wisdom is true pain.
The emerald tablet is a refined act of torture.
Yes, longing for this and not affirming it will bring the rat to dread the true unnecessity.
It rises from the soul and sways the heart of every single hearer with deepest power in simple ways.
Mephistopheles teases the wizards and princes. 1871, birth of the German Empire, a moment which ignited a rapid industrial revolution, yet pregnant with the Great War and the Weimar Republic to follow. The second cauldron, the first being Ptolemaic Egypt, and now we boil in the third.
Is language the only agent of dynamics? Certainty of words is an assisting idealism, a tragic foundation to be forever haunted by what feels like loss. But what was salvaged? The sense of everything immanent, dwarfed by self-constituting destruction.
No one escapes the fall. Remember the wise hermits who thought themselves to have fled the herd and called for unification of the spirit. They also longed for Don Giovanni and Dionysus from seclusion and celibacy, all irony aside.
Only transcendent enough to outline the infinite. Sounds radical.
The father of the act is light, the mother shadow.
Is the light the panspermia shot into the dark womb of space? Is what it enlightens all that exists, or are clandestine bastards living in the void of obscurity?
Light is encompassed by darkness, and darkness is more primordial. Darkness isn't born of light, but light is born in darkness. Shadow shares darkness' ancient pregnant nature. When light strikes an object and creates it, its shadow endures, both as a reminder of any object's chaotic genealogy and as the dark antithesis of every illuminated thing, without which it wouldn't be whole.
The eclipse is an ellipse, circumsphere dynamic of opposites, yes, if you draw the line.
You think the sun to be its father and the moon its mother.
What gift lies in this think? Is the duality of creation but an illusion? The union of masculine and feminine a lie?
The sun is a sphere of fire, the same from every angle. The moon is alive, uneven, seemingly secondary to the lunatic, but truly home of Kepler's demons.
Did these demons come into being in the Kepler's cosmic leap?
Dream or not, these demons are real. Flaming and solid orbs in coincidence, in fire and mineral is every act understood.
Does no act move beyond duality?
An act informed by extremes. True tolerance is bound for transcendence.
It seems that every act is a dance between a horde of extremes. The dualities tighten the rope upon which the actor dances.
Duality is merely practical, never cosmological, metaphysical, or both. A more complex figure of being is possible. Dancing on a line is ridiculous. Acting is tearing and splicing these interweaving threads of the rope. It only suggests synchronicity.
The sun and the moon collide in consonance.
The neuron winds bored within.
Is it mind only?
The idea only mind demands a duality, in which mind stands against something else, id est matter, as light can only be understood in contrast to dark. No, all there is unabridged experience.
Never mind, then. But it is a tempest of all celestial beings.
The storm into which gods and men are cast alike. Like a king may be defied but never ignored.
While the gods rest calmly in the pupil, the men who try to traverse the iris tempest to reach the white of the eye will die in defiance. But we are neither gods nor those men. We are the ones who dwell in destruction and build with debris.
Oh wonder, how many godly creatures are there here?
Does it fit a rat?
Of corpse. The rat snuck onto the ark like its mammalian forefathers, hid in the underground as the great fiery snake attacked from above.
The breeze a wind, the storm a breeze, moving the string of worm.
In change do we master reformation of revolution.
Should we not fear the tide instead of the flood? The strength of the moon is finite in psychology. It will move without you.
Yes, for every speck of meteoritic matter that adds to the mass of the moon will make it grow stronger.
Decadence is in the fold of the many. No invasion has the strength of a lone word. The winds find solace in strife.
The foci mundi is mimetic to wind, even the most quiet of winds.
It's only in conflict. If only conflict is progression, will the feedback loop ever become stable or apocalyptic?
Wind, that king of being, in constant flux, who ceases to exist only when it ceases to change. The nurse is the endocrine system.
Is it all body or just informed by it?
Body is but an interpretation of the nexus of experience. It is all experience.
Like Saturn as Pero and Simon as Cronus.
Thus, it is its own nurse.
Is it then both the act and situation, the thing and the medium in which it moves?
That would be the divine substance.
And the manipulation of the practice of magic.
Gods are ungraspable for modern man, but shake hands with the magician.
The gods were always constant in order for man to move between them. The magician is not.
Every act is a worm in the ground.
Perhaps it is too categorical to say every, for the ancestors of an act seem a heterogeneous horde pushing for agency.
A worm feeding on the legacy of time, the bones of man and monster, but will it ever breach the surface of the earth and consume the sun and the moon?
Not before it travails within your entrails and hurls you toward your fate.
Even Gorgon started small.
Turning tectonics, infernal in ecstasy, nurtures the miracle.
And what do these festering boils hold beneath the skin?
Through the breast of Medusa, the mineral flood we need will flow.
The highest beauty demands the hardest birth. The act is the father of every religious experience throughout the world.
The act is the father in the sense that, unlike the mother, who truly becomes a cosmic being by dividing the corporeal self, the father was never meant to reach a higher cosmic plane by way of his own biology. Therefore, he's searching for some religious experience in order to simulate true transcendence.
Man is the actor and woman his world. It seems to me we fell out of her. We broke one of our X's into a Y. We separated from her, yet never able to separate ourselves. The paradox. She is the unattainable, a vortex of longing toward which we endlessly gravitate, and yet she surrounds us as our world.
It is in and of itself the eternal source of everything everywhere.
How is it separated in essence from what it creates?
It is not. Everything is moving erratically around and through its own nucleus, creating and destroying everything from nothing.
To walk the declared path of Hermes is anabasis and catabasis in one serpentine path.
The mystics' anabasis and catabasis are straight lines, tangent to the double helix of the gods, spiraling in all directions around Ein Sof.
From these burrows all wonders will hatch.
What will in time call these burrows their home? If the Amazonian sloth made caves for man, what would the worm leave and to whom?
From this lockpitch hatch, burrows will shoot like mushrooms. Yet unlike the graves of old, these won't keep tradition in their belly, but free space, clear the air, and yield to the sun's procreating rays. So perhaps from these burrows all wonders did hatch.
The worm took the burrows from empty space, just like it nested in the rat. The cave was the first stage. Through its darkness, worm stood.
Thus the world is ripe with wonder.
The ripe fruits of wilderness. Wandering is intoxicating business, like any basis.
The ecstasy of ripened things is borrowing insight and life from the future, while your decomposing body and mind moves in closer to greet you.
The power of the act is whole, healthy and principle when it moves upon the earth.
The power might be whole, healthy, and principle, but will the act be the same?
No, for the power is pure potentiality, while the act is actuality, the collapse of the wave function, the step taken away from the crossroad, and therefore by its essence always deprecated. Yet the flaw is the tension, the thorn and harmony side that diffracts light, giving birth to the rainbow, the sign of the covenant after the flood.
Power, yes, is potentiality, and the antediluvian act of God was actual, a strike from potentiality, yet not powerful enough to drown the blind passengers of the ark. Octopi and alike did not care.
Its power is complete, only thought dilutes it into varied strata of moral and motive.
The complete power brought forth by poesis and straddled by techne.
Did not thought bring you to the beautiful place where your soul now rests? Or has it been an obstacle to unhindered power?
Thought has brought me here, but moral and motive always hinders pure thought. For the universe to investigate itself through our consciousness, it must look beyond the causality and morality of its own existence. Nothing is necessary.
If soul is in the way of spirit and moral is a virtue of spirit, practical necessity, we should hijack ethics from soul and chain this diamond to spirit. At return, it will know its molding to be mineral shell.
Are the mind tunnels we walk, the burrows or the shedded skin of a basilisk or both?
The shell that brought Aphrodite from the froth of blood and semen, or rather will it know itself as nothing, and like the beholder of the serpent-headed Gorgon turn to stone?
This is no renaissance. Every mind tunnel and every burrow even eventually leads to the foci mundi. Cutting this tunnel knot is not cunning, it is spirit deception.
Logos ruptures, bloated with being.
Yes, Logos is a charming trickery of its own device.
And its inherent idea of mastery, the biggest lie. Separate earth and fire, the subtle and the gross, and revel in the shouts of the real.
So the real is revealed by separation, but only in fragments? Or is reality shattered by separation, and the ripping asunder of the real something we should seek? Well, in whatever side we can get of reality, however fragmentary, and reveal the hollowness of the modern discursive real, however pervasive.
Let's revel.
Hovering fire, faint light through molting mineral kept by the skill of worm.
Is the worm Maxwell's demon incarnate?
Is mystical experience the gas chamber of Maxwell's diamond, since experience persists through time without diminishing or mixing, which in itself is incredible, but the mystic with aid from above seems to even expand experience. And what is the phenomenology of the worm?
The rat is loose in these burrows. Chase it, pull out its worm. This is your anti-mysticist. The soul will never find any God, but spirit will.
Burst with bits of the absolute to nurse its negation.
Is this the play principle of God?
God amusing himself, impregnating nothing.
Thus panspermic.
The void populated by followers.
One separates the dirt from the fire, the physical reality beneath everything from the consensual reality that veils it. The fire will rise from the consensual to the heavens with an amiable fragrance and great virtue, returning with force from the higher layers to the lower.
Is the sedating smell of consensual reality not only for the religious? Shouldn't we rather feel the ethereal understanding by warming our hands by the fires of Abrahamic literature and become intoxicated by the curious fumes?
There is no shame in the contented piety, which draws from the smallest breeze a sense of belonging and harmony. Yet a wise man once said that religion is for those who bang on the doors of heaven with their fists. Intoxication, then, can happen on many levels. Do you pass the bakery with a smile, or do you run inside to learn the techniques that produce such aromas?
Self-supply in toxins is essential.
Its power breaks all conceivable notions of direction. Nothing necessitates its existence. Thus, it acts in every layer, always, without reason or relations.
Is its operative space this realm of time? If so, is it obsolete in itself?
It is its own time, thus being its own space, whether space-time exists or not.
The vertical miracle worm is a two-headed neck with each end buried in mineral and fire.
Will it ever be bent? Can the worm be forged into a two-headed oboes? Will one head win? Will the worm die?
Never circular, as this shape is merely imagination and only circumferring itself. This worm is a bender of time itself and of the space left behind time. Once erect, the worm serves as a second fall.
The worm is a parasite with cosmic ambition. Napoleon, born apart from his historical self, was a worm. Roaring depths and heights occur, begging for towers and tunnels.
The Tower of Babel and the tunnels of Azazel.
The tower and the tunnel here is the Foci Mundi. Start the grinder and burn the mill.
The greedy hears the sky asking for a tower and answers, looking frowning at the high-soaring magician. To the thief, the sky reveals itself as a deposit for a skyscraper and the earth as a mine.
The naming is inevitable, not only for the thief or the speculant, like the different ways the church tower and the skyscraper inhabit the sky, or March and Hybris.
Thus the glory of the whole world shall be upon you. Thus every obscurity shall flee before you. Thus the fire will burn every gangrened limb and penetrate every suffocating conception.
Does your appetite for destruction not reveal a certain love for the existing order?
And so we are to shed our body and become pure mind.
Shed our mind and become pure rind.
Shedding seems like everything, but is only a trait of molding. Shedding is an implication of growth within and without.
By this, understand that true harmony is found only in obscurity. It is the force before all forces. Nothing precedes it. It is in every subtle thing and penetrates all its own solid things.
The harmony beyond order. Hermetic hermeneutics leads to a sentence beyond any grammatical superstition.
Only by separating oneself from creation you can observe it, and here the outsider looking in will have to be its own creator, radicalizing himself.
Creation, a pyromaniac inspecting his burning house. He must choose between watching only one perspective of his creation or perish within his own creation from the inside. The soul is in the way of spirit. The subject and object dichotomy stands in the way of pure experience. Only the solution of the inspector and inspected will let you have the cake and eat it too.
Alka has brewed in a metal mind, dissolver of souls.
The only cauldron that can hold this brew. Now, drink from this chalice.
Eccentrically swarming these foci, no shadow can reach. The intestinal same is the decomposer of solids within.
If the worm itself eventually decomposes, what does it excrete?
Itself will never fall into decomposition. The worm is true composition.
What stabilized the structures can then remain? Are they all doomed to topple and spire anew?
What is erect then?
Something erect calls for a tip. Aspire towards the horizon. The pointiest of points, this end has no direction. That is to say, a towering tunnel.
Excruciating clarity, the primordial yes resounds.
Thus the world will be reborn.
An ever-entangling existence.
Thus erected tribe of slaying senders.
Fathom the fact of creation.
The ebb and flow of the dissonances will crash together, and at the peak of this fundamental potentiality, they will collapse into a new, fresh-smelling reality, like the ozone-filled air after a thunderstorm.
When the tide rests and the tempest dies, this nothingness is where the old resides. It becomes nothing and holds everything.
Thunder and flood acts from potentiality. Early eschatons to amneticize the tide.
The waters will fertilize the future with the past. Only by violently straightening its contorted being, delusional shapes of harmony can be.
Shapes of harmony are beautiful chimeras, impossible, fire-breathing. Only in divine madness does their form reveal itself to our eyes. The act is the straightener and the reality the submissive.
Only the arabesque that sheds its symmetry can lift the veil from our eyes and show us the true chaotic harmony of creation, but insisting on any ordered linearity is to cower behind raised hands, looking through split fingers.
A prism of flesh, the flood lashed the world. Noah was thirsty, the rat was patient.
The sage wish for woe, accuse him of hybris, long for destruction, that you might be punished by bearing the burden of righteousness.
Throats inquire, seekers of harmonies.
Seekers, but perhaps never reachers. Has harmony ever truly been acquired?
Through eccentric superposition of shimmering waves in the frequencies of towers and tunnels, the Foci Mundi harps the wind into sonance. Attune your throat to this.
The resonance of the worm is stereotactic, but never mono-reasoning.
Revel in unspoiled transient truth.
Wander with the gods in the garden our ancestors knew so well. Leave your will behind and let the gods enter. They are as eager as you are. Explore the kingdom. Let's reclaim enthusiasm and inspiration from the dry tones of the babbling mob.
Yes, cleanse the concepts. They have become analogies in the hands of the knowing.
But know that you are walking a garden of time, so expect the barbarians at the gate.
Kill the gardener in the will of wheat and carve your cranium in these glyphs of bewildering.
And in enabling, I suffer thrice greatly. hang from above, chain from below, and thus pulled beyond.
Is Hermes a messenger? Did he return to report from transcendence, or is he merely a gatekeeper of wisdom beyond his own reach? Is the tablet like the sounding of Heimdall's horn, or the cry of the hermit?
He perished in light, and we are but trying to kindle a flame from his radiating body. What he saw was nothing but light. How far he got is anybody's guess.
Hermes hanged himself, mimicking the self-sacrifice of old, like the caveman painting the walls to control the chaos, like Odin, like the flagellant, transcendence through violence.
Violence is the sacred, suffering is offering.
I am called every name. I move through more than the philosophical fragments of your world.
Are we supposed to sew these together with intestine, string, and skeletal needle? Will you guide?
You can try, and you should follow my word, but every misunderstanding will create golems of flesh and of thought. These will fight each other, graft defeated corpses to themselves, like our monstrous ideas only grow.
Further yet, sow the scolding meteorites, stitch with black obsidian, weave in thought, decorate your skull.
True cosmic response. I am the folds of free, a summoning of 2 to 1, the third bank of the river, natural to flood.
Is there a possibility of a fourth bank?
No, that would be a lake.
A fifth and a sixth?
Do not circumfere this. You mean the potential of new foci sprouting from within? That would mean a new neck dimension. You won't see it coming.
So I will close my eyes and open my ears, drowning in the manifold of waves crashing into and onto themselves. And like the waves, I will break my neck on the shores of reality.
Affirmative, you will beach on every bank.
Scattering into threefolds and threefolds.
1. The androgynous prime violently splits itself. 2. Woman and man strive toward reunion. 3. The failed harmony is the sun, who, like the infinitesimal corner of a fractal, repeats himself and becomes the forefather of the kin. Threes upon threes, folding and forming the pattern that is our cosmos.
Brothers turn on brothers in attempts of upholding the honor of their kin. The folds of the free disperse in tragedy by upholding their own law.
The tragedy of responsibility, the tragedy of love, the tragedy of blood, from the roots of Yggdrasil to the needle point of the pyramids. A fairy tale suffered by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying everything. And what I've said is a gleaming pebble cast into the primordial waters.
And as we wander back into the celestial womb, we will cut open our feet on the jagged edges of collected and rejected truths, drowning in the bloodlust. We will become forever stillborn.
Remember, something was salvaged from these waters. We must step back into these to collect this pebble and put it in a shoe of a pair. To conform it in darkness, a stepping stone to remind the mind.
It will be necessary to see your creation disappear, die analogously, repeat for immortality.
And what I have done to harmony is violence.
Creation is love, love is violence, and harmony is sound of the act's completion.
Violence is the necessary challenge of everything confined. Harmony decoys as its language of completion, a pseudo-death blow to violence itself.
Harmony is realized through your violent action, so it has merely created itself by another turn of the spiral.
Imagination has circumsphered the sun indifferently.
Feel the cosmic embrace as you close your eyes upon a sleeping world.
Being indifferent is the true trepanation of the soul, opening up to everything equally while swirling eccentrically around the center.
Circling ever closer, waiting to strike. Withering under the sun.
Decomposing at sunset, nurturing the undergrowth, raising a molding fist to kiss Aurora's lips.
The true prism of energy, true creator of entropy, non-consuming, all-giving.
A bent wheel and the cosmic waggart. Corruption, of course. Its trail is the withering under the feet of the following herd. Mark of death. Walk the burrows, keep out of reach, become a worm.
Close ties to the ocean. We're sinking deeper.